There is a specific kind of terror in waiting, in being built for destruction, but forced to sit quietly until someone claims you. My life had stood, a loaded gun, in corners till a day. The owner passed, identified, and carried me away. And now we roam in sovereign woods, and now we hunt the doe. And every time I speak for him, the mountains straight reply. And do I smile such cordial light upon the valley glow? It is as a Vesuvian face had let its pleasure through. And when at night, our good day done, I guard my master's head, 'tis better than the eider duck's deep pillow to have shared. To foe of his I'm deadly foe, none stir the second time, on whom I lay a yellow eye, or an emphatic thumb. Though I than he may longer live, he longer must than I, for I have but the power to kill, without the power to die. Reading 754 in its original form shatters the expected boundaries of 19th century female poetry. Dickinson presents a terrifying vision of absolute destructive devotion. Analyzing this work requires looking past the romanticized biography of the author to focus on the structural mechanics of her verse. The popular image of Emily Dickinson depicts a fragile, passive recluse trapped within a quiet Puritan household in Massachusetts. That myth ignores her piercing, confrontational intellect and the stark reality of her actual output. Much of her work explores an enclosed domestic dread, staring at flies, rooms, or carriages. The outdoor, ballistic nature of poem 754 marks a massive thematic departure. She wrote this around 1863. During the Civil War, firearms and reports of mechanical violence became inescapable parts of the national consciousness. Dickinson weaponizes traditional domestic poetic mechanics, meter, metaphor, and syntax to challenge the era's concepts of feminine agency and the nature of eternal life. To understand the mechanism of the loaded gun, we must deconstruct her verse with the same precision used for a piece of lethal engineering. The poem is built on ballad hymn meter, also known as common meter. In the 19th century, this bouncy, predictable rhythm was used for everything from church hymns to nursery rhymes. Dickinson forces cold, calculated violence into this familiar structure. The cognitive dissonance makes the threat of violence feel methodical and rhythmic. This tension is sustained by her specific grammatical architecture. Early editors often dismissed her punctuation as an erratic whim of her handwriting. In reality, the Dickinson dash functions as both a bridge and a barrier. It forces a connection between separate clauses while simultaneously resisting their joining, leaving the reader suspended in a state of perpetual uncertainty. This structural weight is amplified by her use of majuscules, the capitalization of interior words. Scholar John Crow Ransom argues these majuscules are a mythopoetic device. Capitalizing words confers a sense of immense dignity, pushing objects into the fertile domain of myth. In poem 754, this technique gives owner and yellow eye semantic weight, making them powerful archetypes. Early editors, such as Bianchi and Todd, attempted to fix these poems by normalizing the dashes into commas and removing the majuscules. Regularizing Dickinson's grammar to fit standard Victorian conventions strips away the structural ambiguity that allows the poem to function. It destroys the underlying philosophical framework of the verse. Dickinson's style relies on the deliberate rejection of the simile. Words like or as create a distance between concepts that her poetic goals cannot afford. Her concordance reveals quantitative proof. Out of 18,000 lines, similes using appear in merely 1.5% of her work. She writes through absolute metaphor. By directly colliding a cordial smile and a molten volcano, she creates a Vesuvian face without softening connective tissue. This compression forces the reader to interpret the gun and master relationship through several competing lenses. One framework suggests the gun represents Dickinson's latent artistic talent, awakened by her creative muse. Another reading views the gun as a meditation on repressed identity and furious, bottled-up rage. A third interpretation sees a subversion of 19th-century gender dynamics, where the speaker achieves immense power by submitting to a male authority figure. By omitting explicit similes, Dickinson prevents the reader from settling on a single comfortable answer. She uses elliptical metaphor to capture the reality of borrowed power. The final stanza brings us to a devastating logical paradox regarding time and lethality. Though I than he may longer live, he longer must than I. To find the meaning of that paradox, we have to look at the poem's eschatography, the study of death, judgment, and the final destiny of the soul. The popular mortuary literature of Dickinson's era promised a comforting, domestic heaven as a reward for the faithful. Dickinson dismantles this comfort through a logical trap. As an object of violence, the gun has infinite utility, outlasting its master. Yet never truly alive, it's barred from the release of death. It has the power to kill, without the power to die. This vision frames eternity as a Gothic curse of frozen, infinite utility. Instead of the promised salvation, the speaker is left in total, timeless isolation. The poem does not end with a period. It ends with her signature dash, leaving this grammatical and philosophical loop wide open. The terror of Poem 754 lies in its refusal to offer comfort. Dickinson uses lethal grammar to trap the reader in the exact paradox of the loaded gun, possessing immense power but doomed to an eternity without peace.